Here we're looking at a purge valve on the 2008 Chevy Impala, and if we follow the line that's connected to it, you can see there's no service port to tap into the evap system and do a smoke test really easy. So my next thought was to go over to the fuel filler neck, and I have this funnel that came with my smoke machine, but I've never really been able to use this thing. You can see it just wants to keep pushing out. Part of that is because there's silicone paste on the fuel filler neck, but besides that, this thing never really works. I've never been able to use it successfully, not even once. Well, if you look at the fuel filler neck, there are threads for the fuel cap to grab onto, but there's a gap right there in the center, and even if you did get that funnel to hold in place, that's where the smoke comes out of, and that's not good because it's not going to be a sealed system, which makes the smoke test completely irrelevant. So the next tool I have here is a inflatable bladder, and this tool works absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, it's too large for this fuel filler neck and it just isn't going to fit. So my next idea was to buy a fuel cap for the Impala. We'll modify it so it could accept the smoke machine, and we could use it as our service port and put smoke directly into the fuel tank to test for evap leaks. So of course this cap is already taken apart. I'm just going to show you the steps. That first piece I just removed was basically like the lanyard for your fuel cap, so that when you take it off your car it doesn't hit the ground. That you could just go ahead and cut it off pretty easy. The next step is this second collar. This one's actually the tricky part to get off. It's on there pretty good. It does rotate, but it's clipped in and it doesn't want to come off. So I just grabbed like a punch and a hammer, and I just tapped all the way around it until it falls off. Try not to damage it because you do have to reuse it. Once you get this collar out of the way, you could just go ahead and put it aside. Now we can remove this centerpiece and set it aside. We'll come back to it later. This white piece of plastic at the base here, it's going to have a spring behind it. You could go ahead and toss out that spring. We're not going to need it. Now back to the main piece of plastic. On top here there was like this plastic webbing, and I just used my side cutters to trim all of that out, and we could finally remove this like metal collar. And behind the collar we're going to have our spring, so just go ahead and pull the spring out, and there's actually going to be a valve behind the spring. It's like a piece of rubber, so we're going to have to ditch that also. We're not going to need it. And back to the other piece of plastic, as you can see there's a hole in the center. It did not come with one. I had to drill this out, so I'm using a 3/8 drill bit. And again, for the piece of the cap that's you're actually going to grab onto, of course there's no hole in it, so I drilled right through it using that same 3/8 drill bit. And I'll show you why we're going with that size. It just happens to work with what I'm trying to get done here. So my initial plan was to use a rubber tube and just kind of push it in. I'd find a way to make it seal, and then I quickly learned that that's not a good idea because the hose could easily kink. Or what if the hose degrades over time or gets cut and I need to replace it? Well, that's the whole cap right out the window, right? So I came up with this idea. It's a 3/8 copper tube, and this isn't going to degrade, this isn't going to break, it's not going to kink. So I thought this was a way better option. Now the next thing I had to think of is how am I going to prevent the copper tube from being pulled out, because it would just damage the whole thing. So I thought if I put a flare on the copper tube and you push it in from the inside, the flare on the copper tube is going to rest on the white piece of plastic and making it almost impossible to pull this thing out, as you can see. So I think it's a step in the right direction. We all know how fuel caps have that ratcheting mechanism, and I want to try to retain that, but the copper tube needs to be able to seal 100% against a white piece of plastic on the inside, but it also needs to be able to spin freely on the black piece of plastic on the outside, the one that you use to ratchet it. So the best thing I could think of to do this is silicone RTV. It'll give us the seal that we want, and there's some flexibility. If I use something like JB Weld, it could crack, and if that cracks, it's gonna leak and it compromises the whole tool. The part that I was showing you guys with the flare on it is just something I had kicking around the garage, and it was just used as an example. But now it's actually time to make the actual part that's gonna go onto this fuel cap. Now I know that deburring or chamfering this pipe is a complete waste of time because no one's ever going to come in contact with either of these things, but it just makes for good practice. In order for this to work how I want it to, the copper tube has to fit very loose on this small white piece of plastic, as well as the black plastic that you're going to be turning on the outside. It only needs to seal on the large white piece of plastic that goes in the center. So let's go ahead and assemble everything. I decided that the tube was a little bit too long, so I'm just going to go ahead and trim it down. Here's the silicone I'm going to be using, and I want to make sure to get some of this stuff in front of the flare, because that's really where it's going to be sealing at, and everything else is just extra, just like added insurance and make sure it doesn't leak, because if this thing leaks, it would be a complete waste and I would have to take it back apart to reseal it, and I would imagine that's not very fun. I know the silicone is a bit of a mess right now, but I'll come back and clean it up. But because I'm impatient, I want to go ahead and put the rubber hose on top of the copper and put a clamp on it. I really don't think it needs a clamp because this tube went on very snug. But just so it looks more like a finished product, I'm going to go ahead and put a clamp on it. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up my mess of silicone and let it sit for a few days so everything completely cures. And it should turn out pretty good. So it's been about 3 days and this thing has more than enough time to cure. Everything feels good. The pipe, if I try to push it in or out, it doesn't budge at all. It's nice and solid. I'm really happy with it so far. And if I turn the pipe itself, you could see how the white piece of plastic turns with it, but not the black piece of plastic on the outside. And that's exactly what I was going for. So I actually have that same Chevy Impala coming back in about a day or two. And let's go ahead and use this tool so we can do a smoke test on it. So we are back with this Impala, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I already went ahead and changed the vent valve on this car, and the reason for that is because the last time I was here I was commanding the vent valve on and it wouldn't actually turn on until I went underneath the car and started tapping on it. At that point, it's a done deal. The vent valve was intermittently not working, and that was most likely our small evap leak when it wouldn't seal when the system was trying to seal. But now that we have the new part installed, we could actually use our new tool and confirm that there aren't any more leaks here. Now, if I've ever seen rock bottom, this is it. This smoke machine is indicating that there is no leak in the system. And guys, I'm really happy about this because this woman has been fighting this small evap leak for over a year already. She couldn't get it fixed, and I'm pretty confident that this code is not going to come back again. So here I am showing you guys up front that the smoke is making its way throughout the entire system. And I know it doesn't pick up very well, but I could see the smoke in person a lot better than it's showing up on camera. Yes, I am using a incandescent light. I know some of you are mentioning the purge valve because it's a super common thing to go bad, and the purge valve on this car is relatively new. I must have put it on maybe like 2 months ago because when I was trying to diagnose this problem initially, I found that her purge valve was randomly or intermittently being stuck open, so it got an OEM part put on, none of that crap from AutoZone. So everything seems like it's well. As you can see, the tool is working well. I'm really happy I took the time to make it because it worked flawlessly. In fact, I think I'm going to be making a few more for a few different cars because I can't tell you how much time I've wasted trying to find a way to tap into an evap system, and it just adds up to a whole bunch of wasted time. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and like always, thanks for watching.